Okay guys, I'm making a budget-friendly meal for a family of 3. I do have a toddler that will not be eating this meal tonight. We have a separate meal for him, but it is even food pantry option as well. Plus you could be a food stamp usage person as well, and this is extremely budget friendly. So if you are using food stamps and trying to stretch your food stamps as far as it can go, or if you're using food pantries as your option as well for feeding your family, this is an option as well. Depending on your food pantry, if you are using a food pantry for feeding your family, it is okay. And some food pantries give fresh produce and give certain types of meats as well. And I have been a person that has been on and off of using pantry and food stamps and things like that throughout when I was raising my little kiddos, and I just want to give this option for a family that may be, going through hard times or just really stretching the dollar. And so come along with me as I share with you guys this budget-friendly meal. First and foremost, I have this leftover hamburger that I cooked the night before. It was a pound of hamburger. What I do for my family is I split it up in two, and so I use half of a pound and for one meal, and then half of a pound for another meal. And then I can utilize that and stretch it however I need to. And so since this is for a family of 3, this is very doable, even for a family of 4. I have some homegrown onions that I'm going to throw in this meal. And then I do have my last bit of minced garlic here that I'm going to throw in this. If you don't have minced garlic, you can definitely use powdered garlic. If you don't have onion, you can definitely use powdered onion. I got this at the Dollar Tree for $1.25, and you can certainly go to any store and get the cheapest on hand, but if you are gluten-free, you definitely want to be mindful of buying powders because they have fillers that have gluten in them. But definitely this is a great option for anybody that might be gluten-free to go for this option. The Dollar Tree has these for $1.25. Anywhere else you go is going to be more than that for at a regular grocery store. So I do consider, if you're doing gluten-free and you're on a budget, find ways that you can get your produce at a cheap option. I usually go to my local bakers and shop their clearance. If they have stuff on clearance, I can oftentimes cut my stuff up and freeze it. So if that's an option for you, definitely to stretch that dollar and cut up stuff that might be going bad. There's also discount stores in areas. I don't have one that is currently in my local area, but they have local discount stores in certain areas across the state. So you might want to check out for local discount areas, as those, sorry I had to turn off my fan, but local discount stores in your area will have oftentimes onions, potatoes, and things like that. So definitely check that out if you are trying to stretch the dollar and buy as much bulk as possible for the littlest as possible. Sometimes my local grocery store discounts out onions and potatoes and other produce, so that's when I stock up, cut it up, and freeze it wherever I can, whenever I can. Alright, so I have the onions and garlic and the leftover hamburger that I'm just kind of giving a quick brown. So the nice thing is this hamburger is already pre-cooked. You can either put it in your freezer, take it out of your freezer, warm it up, or take it straight out of your refrigerator if you've had it from the night before, a couple of days before. I tend to throw mine in the freezer because I feel like the hamburger tastes more fresh than it is pulling it out of the fridge. But try not to use the microwave when warming up hamburger. the more fresh tasting it is by putting it straight on the stove and either slow warming it or quick warming it, depending on if it's frozen or not. But now I'm going to add in, I have leftover tomato paste. So this is the tomato paste left over from another meal. So I didn't really use much of the tomato paste in another meal. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in. I'm going to go ahead and throw a can of tomato sauce in here. I'm going to go ahead and throw a can of diced tomatoes in. I'm going to throw in my leftover rice that I had from the couple nights before, and I'm going to give that a quick stir. I'm going to add a teaspoon or, a dash of Worcestershire sauce or Worcestershire sauce, or however you want to say it. And then I'm going to add some salt and pepper to this as well. And then I'm going to add some dry basil. If you have fresh basil on hand, certainly use that as well. But I have dried basil on hand. And the reason why I'm saying all this is because sometimes, again, you can get fresh produce and herbs and stuff like that from your local food pantry, depending on what pantry you go to. And I just want to be mindful of that. And the reason why I say it as well as too is because oftentimes you can get rice, pastas, and things like that. And I know for myself, I often cook up a big batch of rice, leave it in the fridge, and then that's a great, cheap, easy way if you're a single working parent or parents that are, trying to make ends meet. Pre-cook your rice, pre-cook your meats, because you can save them for another day and make quick and easy meals, so you can spend a little extra time with your family and not be so stressed out that you're making a ton of meals throughout the week that are taking up your time when you just want to relax. And so anyway, and then of course the canned goods are a pantry staple as well, that are given in pantries, and even with food stamps, they're just a cheap, easy way to stock up on those things if you're using food stamps. And then of course, if you are just struggling and trying to be budget conscious, of course don't shop for canned goods at the Dollar Tree, because you can get them cheaper at local grocery stores, as the name brands can be often way cheaper than going to the Dollar Tree. But Dollar Tree does have rice as well, so if you are trying to stretch the dollar, you can often find a some rice or pasta even, depending on which is cheaper, your local grocery store or the Dollar Tree. But that is a great way to just be budget conscious and stock up where needed if you can. But again, salt, pepper, basil, I'm just going to add that here. I have some salt from this Dollar Tree as well. This is saltrol, iodized salt that you can get for a large amount for $1.25. And then I have a little bit of pepper here left over, but you can definitely get pepper at the Dollar Tree as well, or sometimes from your local grocery store. The name brand, the store brand, sometimes has about the same price. So I'm just going to give that a quick stir, putting the lid on it on low for about 5 to 10 minutes, because everything in here is already basically cooked. I'm just kind of giving it, having everything absorb into the rice and the hamburger. And so I am giving this a quick stir, but I did throw in some spinach that I had on hand in my freezer. You can add green pepper, you can add frozen mixed vegetables, any type of frozen vegetables, or just stuff that you have on hand, canned corn, canned peas, whatever, to just add a little extra nutrition and add extra to stretch it for your family, to make it for more than a family of 3. Because even if you have little kiddos, I'm sure this can feed up to 5 people, depending on the size of the person as well in your family. So I just threw frozen spinach in here, just dumped it in here. I've never done that before without cooking it before, but I'm sure it will just taste completely fine. I just had it on hand and thought it would be an extra little nice nutritional value. I had bought a huge pack of spinach on clearance at my local Kroger affiliate that was $1, under $2, and it was a huge pack. And so all I did, since it was obviously going to expire soon, that I just bagged it up in little tiny baggies, so you can just throw it in smoothies, throw it in casseroles, throw it in, your lasagna, whatever it may be. Spinach is a great way to just kind of throw it together into something, just to kind of add that little nutritional value. But I'm just going to go ahead again and let this simmer, and then I'm going to throw about a fourth of a cup to a half a cup of cheese. This doesn't require cheese, but you can really dress it up and dress it down where needed, just to kind of feed your family. But this essentially is pasta dish with rice instead, and so really that's all it is, and it just tastes extremely yummy. And so yeah, I'm just gonna let this simmer for a little bit. All right, so I've shredded up some cheese, and oftentimes anybody that might be using a food pantry, some of the food pantries give blocks of cheese or shredded cheese or what have you, and I'm making a mess, but I have some cheese on hand. I'm just using some mild cheddar cheese that I have from my store that I went ahead and shredded up. You can use like how much ever cheese you want. If you're wanting to add cheese to this just adds a little bit of extra protein, a little bit of extra flavor, and again stretches the meal as well. So I'm just going to give this a quick stir, dish it up. Alright, so here it is all dished up in a bowl, and I suggest if you are not gluten-free, you can serve this with just regular bread and butter, or any type of side that you want to do, like a French bread or a loaf of bread, and do some sort of garlic bread, or just toasted bread with butter, things like that. It's just an option. Even if you don't have butter, you can use oil and throw a little salt and maybe garlic powder on top of it. If you have Parmesan cheese or mozzarella cheese, throw it in the broiler, what have you. There are so many options for sides for this. We have just some broccoli and some bread and butter for those that are not gluten-free, and then I do have some gluten-free bread on hand for myself, so I'm just going to go ahead and make some garlic bread, and for the kids that are not gluten-free, and then for myself that is gluten-free, so that way we can just have some garlic bread with this and be able to have a fulfilling, nice, dense meal.